Welcome back to the show, everybody. Let me tell you, FedNow says we're close to the finish line. But when it comes to Ripple and XRP, they will never tell you this. What am I talking about? Somebody roll that beautiful intro and we're going to find out.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook for exclusive content. Right now, $889 billion market cap for crypto. It's up 2.2%. Good afternoon. 16,800 plus for Bitcoin, Ethereum, 1,200 plus now. It's up 11.7% on the 7-day, by the way. Tether, $65 billion market cap. Keep watching. XRP, 40 cents. We're up 7.2% on the market. I like it on the 7-day. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot of uncertainty everywhere, and Glint makes me feel better about it. I was a customer first, but they are my sponsor, and I love what they're doing. And you will too if you give it a try. Click the link underneath, and you get physically allocated gold that you can have on your MasterCard and spend it everywhere, every day. It's God's money, and they've made it reliable money for you to use all around the world on your MasterCard debit card. During this time, it has meant a lot to me to have this card, and I'm just being, very sincere and honest and with everybody here. Click that link and check it out and see if it's right for yourself. One of the scenarios I've talked about very quickly on this is that imagine you own it, and now this is physically allocated gold, not paper gold, but imagine, and once it's on your card, you can spend it right away. 1% in, 1% out. But let me tell you something. You own physical gold and the economy crashes and you go to cash in your gold. What do you think the price they're going to offer you is? I'll leave it there. CZ Binance acquires JFSA registered Secura exchange Bitcoin, committed to enter Japan under regulatory compliance. Things are happening quickly all around the world. It's a merger acquisition period as we're in this new emerging asset class. European Central Bank, and this may not come as a shock to anybody, but they're taking shots at Bitcoin again. They say apparent stabilization of Bitcoin's value is likely to be an artificially induced last gasp before the crypto asset embarks on a road to irrelevance. Woo! I would not want to hold something like that and have a central bank speaking about my asset in my portfolio this way. Looks at where Bitcoin stands amid widespread volatility in the crypto markets. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go away, because technology is technology. You can't make it go away, but they can regulate it, tax it out of existence if they want to. This is a clip here, guys. If you're not following ProCoin News, I don't know what you're waiting for, but they're bad to the bone. They are a sponsor, but I love them. And I was following them prior to, they're amazing at what they're covering. And shout out to Black Swan Capitalists right here. This is an ICE 9 talk right here. Banking system freeze confirmed. Clive Thompson, retired wealth manager in Switzerland, lays out what he believes is coming. Take a listen here.
I think it's quite likely that the CBDC will arrive, and it will also be the subject of the currency reset at the same time. At some point, the world is going to go into a crisis, or a country is going to go into a crisis. It might be the UK, it might be Italy, might even be the United States, but something is going to happen. Things are very, very taut in the financial world at the moment. And
I agree with him. Something's going to happen. There's going to come a pay-to-piper moment, I believe. That's me personally. So at the end of the day, I want to set the tone there, because now we're going to we're speculators in this space. I want you to hear what this gentleman's talking about, migrating to cross-border payments to ISO20022, as he says it. I think it's rolls off the tongue better. But listen to what he says here as he's speaking here. I believe it's at the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, or at least conference. Listen.
About migrating cross-border payments to ISO20022. The first one is when you look at a map like this, you see many countries that are migrating their RTGS systems to ISO20022. And when you talk about global trade, I was exchanging with a few. What we see in mature economies, about 30% of payments that are cleared via an RTGS system, like the one that you're modernizing, actually have a leg that starts cross-border, right? Because that's the way that global trade is facilitated. You serve your corporate customers, they end up wanting to pay their suppliers from other parts of the world, and these needs to reach those banks that actually banking the suppliers. They do this for the vast majority via RTGS systems, but this is going to change. We saw on the slides of ODED before, instant payment systems, we see wallet systems, so increasingly you have to be ready for transaction cross-border to flow through these different ecosystems.
Listen.
But the RTGS systems are migrating. When you do your calculation, all the next generation instant payment systems, they're based on ISO20022. Even those CBDC experiments, by the way, when they interlink, they use ISO20022.
Oh, even CBDC experiments, by the way, when they link, they're using ISO20022. Well, isn't that interesting?
The native coin, yeah. Now, where XRP could come into play potentially is when you're looking at cross-border CBDCs. So when you have a digital dollar and you have a digital real, or digital pound, you obviously need to have some way to interact cross-border. Yeah. So I think the BIS call this a multi-CBDC model. One of the ideas is you use a sort of a neutral bridge currency to go from one to the other, similar to the model I explained earlier, with our on-demand liquidity.
But going with what the gentleman just told us, at the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, when CBDCs are being used, even in the experimental phase, they're all linked into that rich data collection of the messaging of ISO20022. Well, the person you just heard speaking was James Wallace, the head of Central Bank Digital Currency Engagement for Ripple. So that tells me by default between those two people's statements, one, we know the multi-bridge includes the XRP ledger as at least one trial example in that experiment. Two, what else we know is because it was explained to us by this gentleman. Let me get this right here. This gentleman told us that the CBDC experiments are in fact linked into that rich messaging data collection of ISO20022. Then that tells me that at least for the experiment of the multi-bridge that includes the XRP ledger, that the XRP token is too, because you can't break the cycle in the chain of information and rich data collection with a bridge currency interrupting the CBDC tied into the linked rich data of the ISO20022. So when we use the slang ISO tokens to represent something like XRP, now I believe we all understand that the ISO20022 is rich data message collection and coding through that standardization of language, right? That payment language. But as it was just explained, that is linked and tied to the CBDCs. And if they use the multi-bridge XRP, it's a failed experiment if XRP isn't linked in being able to carry that across and exchange the value between CBDCs as a bridge as well. Take that one. They will not tell you that. They will go out of their way to not tell you this. And look at this from FedNow.
Project from start to finish to try to coordinate and launch this newest edition from the Federal Reserve?
Yeah, I think, it's easy to undersell the amount of complexity and effort that has gone on with our project. As you think about the back end of our solution, it plugs into the master accounts at the Federal Reserve System. So settlement would be done instantly, real time, to the master accounts, which also are interacting with all the other existing payment services. And they are the accounts upon which correspondents and other financial institutions rely. So for us to plug in real time alongside those other services and to move to 7-day and to provide the level of information that financial institutions will need to manage their accounts, as well as manage a new service and provide services to their account holders or their members at credit unions, all started to layer on top of each other and create that complexity. Some of the folks on the FedNow team like to say this is one of the biggest projects and most critical projects that we've done in quite some time. It's an all hands on deck thing that we've really put a lot of time and attention to. The deepest analyses I've had in my near 30-year career at the Fed have been included in these projects, and it's very rewarding to see it come close to the finish line.
Cool. Close to the finish line. That's what the Atlanta Federal Reserve gentleman just said to us. Now, a lot of people knee-jerk reaction. It's FedNow. It's domestic system. It's not going to use XRP. Well, I tell you this, they're using Ripple. And let me tell you this, you want to serve large value cross-border payments, you have to organize the domestic liquidity. What in the hell do you think happens right now with FedNow in that? That is what they're doing. And having a CBDC is being able to get that value moved and organized on the new payment rails of that domestic payment system of FedNow. Then you can start servicing very large value payments, connect to huge, rich data collection with ISO20022, which obviously is also tied and linked to XRP for the multi-bridge. Now, let's go to huge speculation here. Hassan Al-Anazi says here, the U.S. Federal Reserve has proposed taking ownership of XRP and the Ripple network and blocking retail purchases of XRP as an alternative to the existing financial system rather than creating a cryptocurrency. Now, that's speculation, obviously, right? But you know what? Take a look at this, because I remember when this comment came out a while back. This was David Schwartz responding to something very similar being proposed about the Ripple private ledger network, which does exist. Ripple private ledger for the central banks to launch their CBDCs on. And that's not all. Because what else do we know? I'll tell you what else we know. We know that Ripple is on the FedNow Faster Payments Council. That's a fact, Jack. But listen to this thought from David Schwartz a while back here about the idea of a government taking possession of something like Ripple's private network. The CTO entertaining the notion that we all get called conspiracy theorists for. I'm not saying it'll happen, but he's open-minded enough to consider the option. And he says they could take possession of Ripple's private network, but there's really no way they could take possession of XRP or the XRP ledger, thank goodness. It's a public resource operated by people all over the globe. They could create their own copy of the system just as they could with any other public ledger system. But then they'd have to compete with systems like Bitcoin and the XRP ledger. If the value of these systems comes from their decentralization, then why would people want to use one owned by the Federal Reserve? The design of the public blockchain system makes a lot of engineering sacrifices, just precisely to ensure that they can't be taken over or censored. They have no administrative functions. It wouldn't make sense to take over an existing system and completely destroy its value proposition. No, it wouldn't. But I tell you what, as a layman, I could see an answer to why would people want to use one owned by the Federal Reserve? Because it's highly regulated. That's why. And Bitcoin isn't, as an example. And if it's highly regulated and insured, where would you send your money? What payment rail would you choose every day to send your money across? I think it's pretty simple. Remember, as David Schwartz had told us back in 2017, it can't be dirt cheap when it comes to XRP. That doesn't make any sense. If XRP costs $1, they need 1 million XRP, which would cost $1 million. If XRP costs $1 million, then they need 1 XRP. Again, pointing out it's a liquidity thing. It's about liquidity. And imagine what XRP's value could be worth if it's available to everyone in the world. But their private network has been adopted by a government. And isn't that what we haven't seen so far, the way we have the internet?
Technical enthusiasts that were very interested in the technological end, and they weren't as savvy about how to drive adoption. The only strategy that anyone could think of was a grassroots strategy. And that's not how the internet got adopted, right? The internet was adopted by government and military first. So it's
Isn't that the moment we're in? Didn't we just listen to the Atlanta Federal Reserve gentleman talk about FedNow? And don't we remember that the Federal Reserve created the Faster Payments Task Force? And they formed the U.S. Faster Payments Council. Pat Thielen at the time, back then in 2019. Ripple is a member of the board, and then it was Craig DeWitt. And how about back in 2022, the summer of this year? The Faster Payments Council and Ripple have launched a crypto in payments survey designed to gauge the industry perspectives on the use of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Again, they're never going to tell us because we're the retail investor. And I don't mean Ripple's not going to tell us. Ripple's probably under NDAs. They can't tell us, even if they wanted to. They are not a consumer-facing company. And that doesn't mean that XRP won't be available to everybody. But what I'm waiting for is to watch a government and governments adopt this XRP ledger, whether they use a private version or not. It would be very, very good in my eyes for all of us to see that validation take place, that this value protocol is held in such regard that a government would use it to move its value across it, private or otherwise. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. This is my digital perspectives. Check out all the links underneath the video. They are great products and services I use each and every day. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not done it, I have Digital Perspectives Mastermind group. It is a brand new group. If you are at the moment, you realize we're in, you need to be in this group. There are incredible people in this group. We're going to have courses that you can have to level up and do everything you need to get yourself prepared, to have the tools ready, because this moment may go from the scale of just having the opportunity of a lifetime to invest in the bottom of this market all the way to some of us may have to reinvent ourselves in a moment like this because of the changes that are coming. Either way, get in that group. It's a limited number, ladies and gentlemen. I'll catch all of you on the next one.